What's up, Amazon sellers? If you're interested in learning about scaling your Amazon business in maybe alternative ways and different ways that even I don't know about, I'm really interested today because I'm going to be interviewing Cassey Kickflips. And in particular, I'm going to be learning around the sneakers game, but also around botting and lots of other, should we say, innovative ways of reselling and finding products on Amazon. So stay tuned. I'm looking forward to this one. Okay, so I'm super excited. Why? Because I'm right now getting a chance to speak to Cassey, and he is an owner and a founder of an Amazon business, but also a community called Kickflips. And the reason why I'm interested is the fact that he does a lot of, alternative things around like sneakers, around botting. And this is an area of the Amazon game, which I've always been aware of, but I just don't really know much about. And I'm very interested to learn, and also seeing how I can use automation within my own business and learn from others, such as Cassey, and how he's doing it as well. So Cassey, I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time out and sharing today. If anyone doesn't know who you are you happy to share a little bit about yourself and maybe your journey so far?
Sure. Thanks a ton for having me. Always excited to connect with other Amazon sellers, especially. We got to speak a little while ago and was super impressed with what you have going on. So always love having round two of a great conversation. But my name's Cassey, 24 years old, originally from New York. And I've been in the reselling game ever since I was probably 12 years old, actually. Kind of got the start back. I lived in a rural farm town in upstate New York. My school was 40 minutes away from my house. School got out at 3:30. Basketball practice wasn't till 8. And my mom said, I'm not going to go pick you up only to drive you back in a few hours. Find something to do for 5 hours. So I would just go to a bunch of thrift stores in the neighborhood. And I got my start when I was probably 12 years old, finding designer clothing at Goodwills, places like that. Buy a shirt for $2, sell it on eBay for $20. And then over the year, it ramped up. And, if we want to, we can get into a little bit more. But to what we're doing today, which is essentially between all my sales channels, doing about 7 figures in sales through Amazon, eBay. I do a little bit with some export companies as well, specifically dealing usually electronics. But through all of our channels, thankfully been scaling up to hit about that 7-figure mark in top line revenue per year. And then in addition to that, I also run a Amazon and eBay reselling community called Kickflips as well, where we have such an abundance of leads. You mentioned softwares, things like that we are also sharing a lot of those with people who are either wanting to become sellers or already are sellers, whether they haven't started yet, or we have some other 7-figure sellers in there as well. So it's kind of both sides of running my own Amazon and eBay stores, as well as helping others do the same, because there's a ton of room in this space, no matter what anybody says.
No, I think it's interesting. It's interesting because everyone looks at the pie as in if you help other people, then the pie only gets smaller for you. But you're like, hey, but don't you realize the pie's getting bigger every every year? The pie gets bigger. So I'm sharing, but my portion is still growing. We can all share, and it's really interesting. So thank you so much. So just talk me through your Amazon business side. Obviously, say the reselling side, as we say, outside the community. We'll come to that in a bit. Talk me about the platforms, and I know off air you talked about you had some VAs. So can you tell me a little bit about that, and what does the operation look like for you? I'm very interested in those kind of sides.
For sure. So in terms of my team, and as it relates to specifically the Amazon side, I'm fairly split between. I probably do the most volume on Amazon, but I also do a good amount through eBay and through some other platforms. But I kind of have some fairly blurred lines in terms of what my team looks like, because a lot of the same team members that I have working for the Discord side or the reselling community side are also working on my private side as well. And so right now, in terms of product research, specifically Amazon product researchers, which make up the bulk of my team, I have 4 and I just hired a 5th. Right now, we're on 5 product researchers where their full-time job is to just be either, reverse sourcing, manually sourcing. Sometimes I'll send them certain sites or sales or things like that, say, hey, see if you can find leads off these sites. So right now we're up to a team of 5 actual product researchers where their full-time job is just, I have a bunch of Google Sheets each morning, sit down with my coffee and I say, all right, how am I making money today? How am I helping other people make money today? And obviously sort of, part of the lifeblood of a profitable Amazon business is getting more profitable item leads. So we have 5 people working on that full-time. We're providing leads, some to myself, some to the reselling community that I'm a part of. And that's the big top line moneymaker of the team, if you will, which is profitable item leads. In addition to that, I have one just kind of catch-all assistant. And so what they're doing is running a lot of admin, stuff like that. So as it relates specifically on some of the private partnerships that I might have with some big, they're called cash out groups. They're essentially export companies. That's a little tangential to Amazon, but still things like uploading tracking numbers, making sure invoices are kind of categorized properly, making sure that emails get kind of any of the administrative stuff that really needs to get done. But, as somebody who is scaling up the operation is going to see, if I can spend my time qualifying buying leads. I would rather do that than bulk making sure that a bunch of tracking numbers get updated, making sure that the amount that I got paid out matches the amount I should have gotten paid out. They're all incredibly essential items to running a business well, but they're that weird paradox of these need to get done, but they're not worth your time. So I kind of have somebody doing a bunch of that as well. And then on top of that, I have a handful of people running the social media side, specifically as it relates to the reselling community. But a lot of it, we're trying to expand beyond. I have one video editor and one like Instagram manager, if you will. So they kind of manage more the actual just making sure that the strategy is there, and then the other person actually does the content side. And I think like one big shift that we're trying to make this year is instead of just saying like, hey, here's like some information, now sign up for the community, is kind of forget the community for a second. How can I just make information as it relates to reselling a lot more accessible to the community as a whole, and sort of just, if they want to join, they want to join. That's not the part of it anymore. It's more, how can I build more goodwill? How can I put out a message that helps people, and sort of just make that knowledge more accessible is kind of like a big driving factor. And so we have them working on the social media side. But long story long, to condense your question down, we have 5 Amazon product research, and then I have 1 admin assistant, and that's the bulk of my team. I also have some like partners on some tangential things where I think a really big part of scaling, specifically the thing that's going to help you can sort of brute force your way to like 10K a month in sales. I really believe just like learn more, and if capital is not a huge constraint, I think it's just like learn more and get ungated more. You can get to 10K in sales a month. But I think what really is going to pop you off is being in community. And I'm not specifically referencing like pay to join a reselling community. I mean, like I have group chats of like other sellers who were in the same boat, and we all grew together. And so they're not technically like a team, if you will, but they more or less act as one, which is, hey, we're sharing some leads with each other. We're sharing tips and tricks. Hey, did you guys see this? Hey, what's some strategies here? So even though they're not, on payroll, I still consider them to be a really integral part of scaling my success, which is having other resellers that I'm in community with, and we're all helping each other scale.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, oh my God, I've been doing this game for like 6 years. I'm significantly older than you. You're 24, I'm 37. And I still keep coming back to the point, like community masterminding, having a small group of people who you just constantly share with is so important, because they help you see things that maybe you don't have time to see, and they see the different edges. And like together, you collectively, you can improve your part of the pie. And I think it's really, I think it's not only like you've got your own community, but also like you're still in those group chats where it's just a group of people, and that really helps out. And I think it's so powerful. I have them as well, and I'm like, damn man, like these things are really good. And I talk to my Amazon team, and they're like, how do we do this? I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm going to go find out from these people, and I ask them. And we know it, and I think it's so powerful.
I completely agree. I think having those people is just so integral to your growth. It's just having people who are maybe around the same stage as you, because you're all learning the same things together. And like, I think that's a huge catalyst to driving growth.
Yeah, agreed. You're doing Amazon's a predominant one on the selling side. You've got your team of sourcers. You're purchasing yourself pretty much in the morning, cup of coffee, reviewing the deals, getting some purchases done. Fantastic. I just want to kind of touch on a couple of other things. You mentioned like an export side. What does that mean? That sounds interesting.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this is one thing. I'm one of the, some people don't actually, I have some friends in this industry who don't like that I like tweet about this as much as I do or share, because I try to keep it fairly this is a little bit more zero sum than Amazon is, but there's still more than enough for everyone to go around. But essentially, this is what I do with Spare Credit Line. And the name of the game is going to be high volume, low ROI, but it's guaranteed purchase, which is essentially, there are a lot of businesses that operate under their business model is we are going to be buying items in America and basically sending them off typically to Asia and South America that they can sell for a markup. Electronics are going to be the biggest bulk of that, whether it's computers, phones, laptops, etc. But there are some other items there. But essentially they're limited. They can only buy so much from Best Buy, Walmart, Target before they get capped. Like they don't send them anymore. So they tap in people. In the original market used to literally just be credit card points hackers. It used to be people who were just super savvy at being able to run up credit card points. So I had buddies who would do millions of dollars in spend, and then they're set for life for any vacation they'd ever want to take, first class, 5-star hotels, all of that. But what they do, and it's easier to scale, anyone can enter this game, but as it scales, it becomes a bit more of a relationship game than Amazon is, where, at least specifically as it relates to online and retail arbitrage, it's everybody sourcing from the same websites until you get into wholesale and stuff like that. But these cash out groups and export companies, whatever you want to call them, are basically going to release a block of commitments or whatever you might want to refer to them as, saying, hey, we are buying a certain amount of these. Let's say it's a Dell laptop. We're going to buy a certain amount of these Dell laptops, and if you can buy them for for $300, we're going to give you $310. All right. So from a pure ROI standpoint, that's like 3%. No Amazon seller is ever going to want to get in on that. But here's where some of the magic happens, if you will. First up, you're kind of stacking coupons, you're stacking credit card points, and you're stacking cashback portals. And once again, this all is a very far back priority from my Amazon sourcing where, I'm targeting at least 30% ROI, high sales volume, things like that. That's my number one priority. And as it relates to capital allocation, you want to go with your highest opportunity. However, if you've been in this game a while and you sourced up, you have a pretty high credit line and sometimes you're not utilizing all of it. If I can throw another $50,000 to $100,000 on credit each month, which I'm utilizing to get, let's say 2% back with my credit card. Let's say I found a coupon to get another 5% off. And then literally last week, Dell was giving 10% back on Rakuten. So if I can load up $50,000 and spend between those three things, let's just call it an extra 15% ROI. Well, it's a guaranteed buy. That's the big thing is I'm not running Keepa charts because I'm not hoping someone buys it. As soon as it checks in, they're sending me the check for it. So it's pretty much guaranteed money. So if I can throw an extra $50,000 on there at a 15% right there, I don't like doing math in public, but I'm pretty sure that's $7,500 right there.
Yeah.
Okay, $7,500. I'm 24 in Austin, no state sales tax. That pretty much pays for my life right there. If I can just cash out, even let's bake it down to 5%, that's still an extra $2,500, which is the big qualm to anybody on the side is what if something goes wrong? To which case I would just say, A, can it happen? Yes. B, I have friends who do quite literally over $5 million and spend a year and they've never not gotten paid out. These are incredibly reputable companies that we're dealing with. There's no way that they'd be able to run a business if they weren't. So, you run it down, it's just cool. Like if I get paid out pretty instantly, it's a guaranteed buy. Why not run up any spare credit line that I have? And I'm not saying I'm maxing out all my cards, but let's say if I have access to 200,000 in credit, why would I not spend 50 of it on this? Just bank a quick 5K, 2,500, whatever it might be. And that's sort of just like a little pocket money, spending money, but that pays rent or stuff like that. Basically what I'm trying to say is it's very tangential. If somebody who's trying to like scale into reselling, I want to start on Amazon, but I heard him talk about this. Don't do this. This is not going to be your main income source, but it's a fun way for more established sellers or people who have spare credit line time to just capitalize on that and make a few extra thousand or even a few extra $100 a month with what they have lying around at, despite what people's gut reaction is, incredibly low risk because they do pay out essentially is everybody's concern.
No, I love it. I think it's really interesting. And hey, I didn't know it existed, should we say, but I can understand why it exists because you can't get the rates at Dell directly or they won't do it. So the Walmarts of the world have a massive thing. So you can, it's like the Chinese Amazon review groups, isn't it? It's like where you have a million different people writing 5-star reviews. Instead, this way, it's going the other way. It's shipping products over there. So I can really
now we're shipping it out to there. Exactly.
Good. And it's a big market. It's absolutely huge and obviously growing. And I know it. When I was out in Vietnam, I was like, oh my God, the taxes are crazy. If I could just go to the US and buy it directly, it's a very different equation. I talked about it earlier on at the very beginning. I was interested in in the sneaker game, the botting game. I'd like to really ask questions around the botting side. I'm not hot on this and I'd like to understand a little bit more about it. Like if anyone doesn't know, what is botting and why does it exist and what's the advantages to it? Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So botting is pretty much the term that people use to using an automation software to check out on items, typically faster than a human, even with Google autofill, would ever be able to type in any information to go through checkout. And it specifically it got its start in the ticket world, actually. There was back in the early 2000s, before any of this was in vogue, there was one guy who, I forget if it was the Super Bowl or March Madness, it was some big event, who wrote a script before anybody ever thought to use this to apply to the ticket world, where he got, I think it was quite literally all but less than 5 tickets to this single massive event, and then use several shell companies to make the sales and everything on the secondary market. But I'm not sure if it was related to this specifically, but A, he ended up going to jail for a little bit for wire fraud. B, that caused there to be laws passed, at least in the United States, related to the use of bots for tickets to live events. Things like Ticketmaster, things like that are illegal. I get asked in my group a lot of the times because we have 6 auto checkout botters in my group that we use for members. A lot of the times they're like, hey, this event's coming up, can you bot? I'm like, no, I can't, because or you'll go to jail. But there's been nothing related to at least any of the industries that I participate in. They're still fully legal and okay to be using for things like sneakers, profitable. Like we do like art and like poster prints that are like actually a pretty common one. So a lot of the world I reside in outside of, specifically on eBay, I deal heavily in limited edition, collectible, those sort of items as well, where, hey, everybody knows that at Tuesday at noon, we're going to be releasing 100 editions of this poster print, or we're going to be be releasing a certain amount of these limited edition sneakers. Everybody knows it, but there's only a certain amount. That's where bots come in heavily, which is cool. If everybody knows at this time this is going to drop, then it's just a matter of who can get it the quickest. And well, if a bot can check out faster than a human, it's going to be very difficult for a human to make money off of this, what we refer to as a drop. And so bots are softwares which are written where you are able to input a profile. I have a couple run on my computer. I just clicked the Google Chrome extension on one. I'm looking at it right now, and one of my profile is Austin1, one of my main residents here in Austin. I have several profiles, and you can just set it to do different things. The first is, all right, if it's already in the cart, it's just going to zoom through checkout incredibly quickly. If somebody's familiar with Shopify Pay or Google Autofill, it's like that on steroids. It's faster than all of those, and it's also clicking buy now for you, stuff like that. So it's clicking the buttons for you. It fills all of your information. Then there's other tangential things you're able to run. One is like a monitor. So let's say that you don't know, or let's say you don't want to have to wait to click on the item and have it add to cart. I can go to certain eligible websites. I can click monitor and I can enter keywords. So let's say that let's just say on a website, let's say there's a FastTrackFBA drop, and you're going to drop a FastTrackFBA tie. And those are going to sell for a ton because we all love FastTrackFBA and everybody wants that tie. And there's only a few to be. I can just go on your website, monitor the words tie, if that's what I know is going to drop, and there's no other thing is going to be called tie, and set it to refresh. So if it's going to drop at noon, I can set it to noon in 2 seconds, just so there's a slight lag in case there's a delay. Then it's going to identify anything that hits that keyword, add it to cart, check it out, things like that. So that's what botting is, or at least on the individual level. Then you can get into even higher quality, higher firepower, whatever you might want to call it. These is the bot I'm specifically referencing is one that I utilize for like the personal. It's usually you're only running it for yourself. You can get access to it. Shameless plug. We have a deal with the developer. So if somebody's listening and they already are a member of my community, you get a discount on it and you can get access to it. But there's even higher power ones that are going to require a little bit more know-how, but you can input like a CSV file. So whether it's from a Google Sheet, Excel, things like that, where let's say me and my buddies, and when I say buddies, I mean like you can do thousands of rows of this. If I have all of their information, I can upload a CSV to the bot. So when this thing drops, it's not checking out one for me. It's trying to check out 1,000 for all these 1,000 profiles that is running an automated thing. And some will hit for, some will not. It varies based on the drop. And there's a lot of, computer science, web development, whatever it might have going into that. But essentially the way that these things scale are you able to run, it's not just you running one task for yourself to pick up one pair of shoes. I've known people who have hit hundreds of pairs of shoes back when PlayStation consoles were big. We were running these and, a drop would happen. Someone would want to get one. I've seen people get dozens. I've seen somebody get over 100 before because it's running all of these tasks. And let's say you have a 5% hit rate on 1,000 tasks that are running, a 5% hit rate on 1,000 tasks, that's still 50 PlayStations, shoes, whatever it might be that you're going for. It's really just the way to play the limited edition game at the next level. For a normal Amazon seller who's trying to reverse source Walmart or Target or what have you, it does come in handy on some items, but it's not for evergreen items. So one thing that's kind of in vogue right now that your listeners might be aware of, at least in the United States, are going to be like the Stanley tumblers. Those have become almost a meme in the reselling community. That's like, all right, are you actually a reseller, or do you actually know how to source, or are you just selling Stanley tumblers? Which they're still profitable. So like I'm still selling them among many other things. But many of those colors, there's some colorways that have kind of tanked in price. But there's some limited edition ones from Target, which you can buy for 40. And I sold one a couple days ago for $125 because they just never come into stock anymore. But you can just run a bot that just continually is scraping and updating the site. It comes in stock. It's going to check it out for you, things like that. So specifically, if you have a replen or an item that you want to be a replen that is just, this is always out of stock. They restock it at 3 a.m. But like, this is a great lead. It's just never in stock. Well, you can still bot those restocks as well. It kind of primarily rose from sneaker culture. It wasn't really in vogue on Amazon until as of late. But if you are trying to get into the game of reselling items that are just very difficult to get, so the magic isn't quite as much in the sourcing per se. It's not so much like, oh, I found this gem that nobody knows about. It's everybody knows about this, but nobody can buy it because it's never in stock. That's where botting comes into play.
So it's really that like limited space bit where, so I'm guessing like it's really good for, you said like replens, letting you know, but really like you should probably like once it's available, I'm buying it. So you've already made the commitment to buy. I'm guessing with bots you can say if the price is a certain price, buy it. If not, then don't bother because things change. So you can do all that kind of controls, I assume.
Correct. Yeah, you can set conditionality. So like we're botting Walmart for PlayStation consoles or Amazon, where they also allow for third-party sellers on there. So you don't want someone to restock at $300 over sticker and your bot's like, oh, it just restocked, go buy a bunch that you'll never make money off of. Yeah, so you can set the conditions and stuff like that. And like I said, I have more than most, and even still, I'd say you don't want to make this the foundation of your reselling, in my opinion. It's just going to be a little bit too spotty in terms of you're always waiting for the next hot item. You're always counting on you to be able to know how to run it better, because you're not going to be the only one botting, ideally. There's enough of the pie to go around, because even as we said in Amazon, like there's enough of the pie for everyone. Well, this is an even smaller pie in terms of people who are using bots. So even though there's competition, there's not nearly that much.
How did you learn about it, man? Like, how did you like figure this out?
Sure. Yeah. So I actually I have not been on Amazon for more than a couple of years. I was much more in the eBay space. And even though Amazon I do the most on now, like I was a 6-figure seller on eBay before I'd ever sold a thing on Amazon. I was really late to the game and kind of regret it, actually. I wish I would have started scaling earlier, but eBay was still going fine. But eBay has a little bit more of a natural marketplace for items like that. A lot of people that your typical replens, like Stanley tumblers are doing fine wherever, those Lulu bags or whatever, but nobody's really, for the most part, buying like face wash, the things that you think of as staples off of eBay. And so what people are typically buying is going to be a little bit more niched down, a little bit more. And I think like collectible items are a really good one for that, because Amazon doesn't have a huge marketplace for that, because there's not typically an ASIN for a 1 of 50 item. That's not a big thing on there. That's not where people go to find those items, but eBay it is. And so it was kind of already in vogue to be selling even like limited edition sneakers. People are going to be selling a lot of like Ultra Boosts or NMDs or free runs on Amazon because you can buy them from anywhere. But if there's like a limited edition Jordan 1, they'll pop up on Amazon, but that's not really where people shop for limited edition sneakers. They're much more likely to go to, if it's not StockX, they're much more likely to go to eBay. And so since that's the world I was in, the people that I was kind of running in circles with were already on top of that ever since the days of Supreme being big back in, the 2010s. And then especially as the supply chain shortage from COVID happened, PlayStations, sneakers, and like GPUs all got huge, impossible to get if you didn't, not impossible to get, but you had to have some software. Even when I was hitting manually, it's because even if I wasn't using a bot to do the auto checkout, it's because I was running in that group that I'm in, Restock monitors, which are essentially a bot without the auto checkout function, still saying alerts to my phone like, hey, these are in stock, and then I go manually buy them. You pretty much had to be running some sort of software to be in the know for when the items you wanted to buy came back in stock.
If people are interested to get into sneakers, what kind of advice would you give to them? Why should they go on social? Like, come on, man, you should be hustling. Get off Twitter, get off Instagram, start hustling. Like, why do you do it? What advice do you have for them as well?